All right, so this movie is one that a lot of people are talking about. It came out back in June, so it's only been out for about 2 months now, and it was very successful. And it's something I feel is going to be seen as one of the biggest movies of 2022. And this is something that a lot of anime fans is gonna like. The DBS superhero movie was cool because it focused more on Gohan and Piccolo as like the central characters, opposed to other Dragon Ball related movies of the past where Goku was always like the main character, or what have you. And this movie was like a sequel to the Broly movie that came out a few years ago, and I do feel that the superhero movie is one that, like, a lot of people, even though like most reviews are good and all that stuff, a lot of people are polarized about it, because there are some people who are not as impressed by Dragon Ball Super as they were with Z, because a lot of people go on record and argue that Z had like a darker tone, and it had a more serious atmosphere and all that stuff, and Dragon Ball Super is more lighthearted and it's hard to take things seriously, which there is some degree of truth to that. But I do feel that Dragon Ball Super was made more for the modern generation of anime watchers, and I do feel that the production of the Dragon Ball superhero movie was one that was it was very strong. It was one that a lot of people were impressed by. But the thing is, it seemed kind of weak in comparison to some of the older movies in terms of like the villains, because the main villains in this movie was the Red Ribbon Army, and honestly they've been portrayed as pushovers throughout the DBZ series. And basically, like, the last time they were a huge deal was like during the Dragon Ball era. But I mean, I guess you can argue like during the Android saga that the Red Ribbon Army was kind of a big deal, with the androids and Dr. Gero and all that stuff. But you look at the villain for this movie, Cell Max, which is basically, it's like I wouldn't say weaker, but basically it's like another version of Cell in his second form, and basically he can't regenerate or anything. So he's not as cool as the Cell from, the Android saga or the Cell saga from the 90s. But the thing is, this version of Cell or what have you is basically the main villain for the most part. And I mean, I find it funny that they're making another version of Cell for I guess Gohan to go up against, because basically Cell is what got Gohan popular, back in the 90s when he went Super Saiyan 2 and killed him. So I guess to some extent they were recreating that formula in this movie. And there are some people who were turned off by, Cell Max's design and, all that stuff, because they thought, oh, he's not as cool as the original Cell, but whatever. The movie was still great, and I do feel that it allowed Piccolo and Gohan to shine more, which is something that should have happened a long, long time ago. In fact, Gohan should have had his own movie outside of the BoJack movie from like the early 90s, where he was an adult, he was the central character, and he killed a main villain that basically it allowed people to take him more seriously as a protagonist. Because if you look at the Cell saga, and then you look at like what happened after that, the World Tournament saga and the Boost saga, he was basically a pushover. He became bland, he kept studying too much, and he was just boring. All the stuff that made him cool when he was a teenager and when he was a Super Saiyan and all that stuff, it was gone by the time he became an adult. And by the time we got to the World Tournament saga, it's like he got weaker. He fell in love, and then basically he got killed by Boo in the end. So, and I think after that, he just pretty much became irrelevant for the most part. So it's almost like, having him be the one to defeat Cell, back then was, kind of pointless. But I do feel that even though this movie should have been released at least 10 or 15 years earlier than it was, I do feel that the right thing was done in terms of giving Gohan a proper spotlight, because a lot of people feel like the spotlight's been on Goku for way too long, and rightfully so, because he's considered to be one of the greatest anime characters of all time. But that's a story for a different time. But the DBS superhero movie was one that has only been out for about 2 months now, and since its release, I believe it managed to earn over 50 million in box office revenue, so it's a massive success. I wouldn't say it's quite as successful as like the Sonic the Hedgehog 2 movie that came out a few months earlier, but I feel like in a year it's definitely gonna eventually accumulate more box office revenue over time. And I do feel that DBS superhero movie is definitely going to be one of the better anime movies of 2022.